Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What's the scariest creepypasta you've read? Not safe for work? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I loved, but was also freaked out by the series of No Sleep written from the point of view of a wilderness search and rescue worker about all the weird shit he'd seen. It's the one talking about random staircases in the woods. It's really similar to a David Paulides documentary and really well written. This next story begs the classic question, how far would you be willing to go to survive? It's an old one, but it really stuck with me, and isn't that scary, but rather unsettling. It's about a guy living in an apartment complex who slowly goes insane, believing some outside entity is trying to get into his apartment and trying to watch him as he slowly becomes more and more isolated. The whole story is from his point of view, and by the end he tears out his eyeballs while being committed to a mental institution. There's a twist at the end that implies he isn't insane at all. It's a really good one, and easy to find if you knew the name. I just always forget it. There's another one that isn't scary, but also always stuck with me, and it was about how water totally vanished from the planet, even out of all products containing it. Society collapsed before people realized the only source of liquid left on the entire planet is blood. People are forced to drink blood to survive. It starts with small animals and eventually works its way up to people. Those who go insane with thirst begin attacking anyone they can find to drink their bodily fluids. The MC of the story has written this all in diary entries, and the last entry of the creepypasta is the MC talking about how thirsty they are and how they might go out for a drink, implying the thirst has finally driven him to do the unthinkable. There was another one where everybody in the world turned to glass, but I don't remember much about that one. These are all from the early days of creepypasta, back when the website was more of a Tumblr blog style page and didn't even have a search function. I'm thinking around 2010 to 2012 sort of time. It was on one of the scariest experience ask threads, maybe scariest paranormal in the woods or hiker, rangers, law enforcement officer in nature questions. I have never been able to find it again, but it haunts me, so if anyone has better luck, please link it. Basically, a ranger or similar profession is out in the wilderness at dusk or night and hears what sounds like a kid crying. They follow the sound, seeing no signs of life nearby, and are out there with flashlights for a while before they realize that the kid crying is a recording, playing endlessly on a loop. Immediately hightail it out of there. It was such a bare-bones story with one of the creepiest turns I've ever read. Read this a few years ago. I remember reading a story where a scientist built a structure in Alaska to do experiments. For one of his experiments, he had 3 human test subjects and put them in 3 different rooms. He told them that he was doing this experiment to test and observe the effects of extended isolation on the human mind. However, the true purpose of the experiment was much darker. The true purpose of the Harbinger experiment was to find proof of the metaphysical, a world we could not see. Zimmerman wanted to summon 3 entities, 1 for each room, and allow the subjects to be trapped with those entities. I can't find it anymore, but there was one continuing story about the 2 guys spelunking and found a small hole in the cave. They continually went to the spot with tools to make the hole bigger, eventually going through to a new area, and then it got creepy, with seeing something moving, and just an overall feeling of dread. The last post was about them going down to find out what was down there, and they never posted again. I wish I could find it again. There was one with the weird children's TV hour that ended up being serial killery. I don't remember much, possibly someone having their thumbs cut off was weird. Also, the series on No Sleep about the guy who worked in national parks and the weird things he encountered there, stairs to nowhere, portals, etc. Edit. Also, not a creepypasta, but does anyone remember the webcomic that was a still comic of some Japanese folktale, but as you scrolled down the page, it suddenly took control of the scroll and turned animated and jump scared you? Sounds cool. I never found this one again on /NoSleep, but it was about a guy who had cancer, and while he was on chemo or treatment, he used to have these dreams where a demon or something would ask him if he wanted to trade places. since he was all healthy in the dream and feel like crap when he waked up because of the treatment. The demon would tell him he wouldn't mind being sick with cancer or something along those lines. All he had to do was pick up a telephone or something, can't remember. I do not believe in the paranormal, but the dream element made it so good. Wish I could find that post again. It was basically this story of this guy who wanted to commit suicide, but he couldn't do it himself and wanted adventure, so he hired a deep web man and then tried to avoid him for as long as possible. It was written like a digital diary on some old BBS, if I recall correctly. I think I found it on textfiles.com. I've been trying to find this pasta for years. I remember reading it on the creepypasta website. It was about this young man who lived in this complex. I want to say a nursing complex, but I'm not certain. There was an old man who lived in the apartment above him that was nice, but he never got any visitors. The young man starts to notice a nasty smell coming from the air vents, and other people noticed it too. One day he hears a thud from the old man's apartment. After investigating, turns out the old man had hung himself, and the thud noise was the noose decapitating the man because he had been there so long he rotted away. I was a kid in the car when I read this and couldn't finish it after that. It was a 10 to 20 minute read, I'd like to say. For a timeline, my gut feeling is late 2013 or 14, but it could have been 2011 or 2015. I'd really like to be able to read it again. It was a really good story. This next story gives a whole new meaning to man bites dog. There is one on No Sleep about Nazi medical experiments where they had to switch brains with people. In part 1, they talk about how they successfully transferred a brain from a dog into a human and vice versa, and the patients. The description of the dog acts in the human body and how the boy in the dog's body is absolutely horrifying. I can't find it now. I don't remember much of it. It's about a girl who gets on a late night train and realizes that she's not going to the usual station. Eventually, the scenery gets more and more unnerving, and she panicked like crazy by trying to contact the outside world with her phone. The only one I remember was called Dear Abby or something like that. It was written from the point of view of a stalker who was writing letters to Abby, the woman he was stalking. Abby rarely checked her mailbox, so she didn't even know she was being stalked for most of the story. The stalker broke into her apartment, threw out her makeup, collected her hair from her hairbrush, etc. Eventually, she checked her mailbox, because I'm pretty sure the stalker left a letter in her apartment, and after frantically reading through them, she went to run away, but he knocked her out while she was trying to get into her car. She woke up in a storage locker with him, she killed him with a knife he purposely left there, and she was basically left to die there with her stalker. Ooh, I like that. Not sure if this counts, but on 9gag there was this guy under the name Nope Watermelon. He posted that his video doorbell kept going off, saying that someone was there. When he checked the camera, there was this creepy guy just staring at it. He said he was going to check the door next time it happened, and he never posted again. Still wonder about it. Russian sleep experiment was pretty crazy. There was another one that was pretty good. It's about a guy who works in a secret government facility where he signed a bunch of non-disclosures, but has a family history of dying early, so he doesn't care. Describes a bunch of weird stuff, including captured aliens. If anyone can link me the name, I'd appreciate it. I can't remember what it's called, but it was something about a guy involved with interdimensional travel, and he went to this place where it was in between dimensions, and it was completely dark, infinite in every direction. All he had was a little recorder with a red light that he documented what he saw and experienced. It was a place where he very slowly over years and years started to evaporate until he was nothing, and he went crazy in the process. I can't remember what the process is called. I think it's a real thing, but it's very creepy. Sometimes found money is not the blessing it seems to be. I can't find it anymore, but I read one once about this girl who lived alone downtown somewhere, and out of nowhere, she found a random dollar bill folded lengthwise in her house one day, like sitting on top of the counter or something obvious. Other weird stuff happened, like she'd come home from work for lunch to walk her dog and it would smell like a man's cologne inside. One day she came home and her dog was standing outside her bedroom door, staring at it and wagging his tail. She didn't think anything of it until she got home from work and went into her room, and her bed was covered in dollar bills folded lengthwise. She called the cops, and it was seriously creepy because she didn't know it at the time, but the guy was in her house at the same time she was, just folding dollar bills in her bedroom a few feet away. Orozco was one of the best reads. I forgot the name, but the one where the stalker killer had been living under the little boy's house the whole time, and he had killed his friend when they were little and took pictures of him over the years and always sent them to him. It honestly made me cry. Wish I could remember the name. The Books of Sand. It's a really long blog post from 2011 that's sporadically been updated for a decade and only got some minor attention back in 2015 when it got posted to Creepypasta forum. I may have nostalgia glasses on, but I really like the writing style and general creepy vibe it has. When I was much younger, I used to be obsessed with creepypastas and found one on YouTube called the Russian Sleep Experiment, which I would rave about to everyone I knew for a long time. That one really stuck with me, and I still go back and watch it occasionally. Like others, I'd love the Search and Rescue series with the stairs in the middle of the woods.